Alafia, I'm Dr. Gloria Latimore-Peace, host and producer of OmniU Presents the H3O Art of Life show. The title of this show is An Autobiography of Jazz Unites, Geraldine Bey De Haas. And the title actually is a takeoff of Dempsey Travis's book, The Autobiography of Black Jazz. And I looked through there and I said, oh, he left a whole bunch of things out. So we're going to write our own book today. We're going to do an oral book. And I'm going to be interviewing Geraldine Bey De Haas.
Thank you.
Of the president and CEO of Jazz Unites Incorporated. I love it. You're the founder also.
Yes.
Okay, I can't wait to start asking you a million things. And then I have to introduce my other guest, who is Debra Han, sculptor and multimedia artist of Han Studios. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to tell you how far back we go, because when I read this last year's program book and saw that you actually started out with a free concert that was a tribute to Duke Ellington.
Yep.
I was there.
Oh, okay.
I was there. I belonged to a group called the Duke Ellington Society. And I spent most of the evening after the last day of the concert with Kenny Burrell.
Oh.
Talking about Duke Ellington.
Yes, he's a darling.
All of he taught a course in Duke Ellington.
Yes, we all loved Duke Ellington.
Of course, we loved him madly.
Absolutely.
And so, of course, you have an award that you give out annually that's called the Love You Madly Award.
Absolutely.
And Debra Han is a sculptor.
She certainly is, and what a beautiful job she's done regarding that award. It's gorgeous. With all the awards that I've received, her award stands out like a light.
I think you're right about that, and we're going to ask her about how she conceived it. But first of all, I just want to get to one thing that I think is important to mention, and that is that Jazz Unites Incorporated is a membership organization.
Yes.
I didn't realize that, and I think that the general public, should they know this, might be certainly willing and anxious to support the work that you've been doing for 29 years by joining Jazz Unites.
That would be wonderful.
That would be just marvelous. I just thought Jazz Unites, sponsors of the annual event that you have at the South Shore Cultural Center.
Well, no, we do a little bit more than that. We did the tribute to Duke Ellington. That was the first thing that we did years ago. And then we started doing a tribute to Marian Anderson because I really loved Marian Anderson, not only her singing, but her perseverance. Her history to me was just right on target. And she made me feel that if you want to do something, you have to stick to it, whether you have the money or anything. You just need to do what you have to do to get things done.
Well, I'll tell you how I see you. I see you as the Dr. Margaret Burroughs of the jazz industry.
Well, that's wonderful.
Because Dr. Margaret Burroughs, you and she share that same journey. She decided that she needed to preserve the history and culture of African Americans.
Absolutely.
And you decided that you needed to preserve the tradition of jazz music.
Absolutely.
And so you have both of you, I would imagine, started out with very little in the way of support from any thing external. Right. And she started in her living room, and you started in the park with and started something in the park that actually launched all of these festivals that we now see going on.
Well, it was just unbelievable what happened when it was such a fight to get the festival, the tribute to Duke Ellington. You know, a person who gave us so much music and so much in terms of the music itself, and the fact that this music is our gift to the world.
Absolutely.
And when you think about that, and we had to fight to get that resolution passed back in 1987. But Duke was the catalyst for me, for a lot of things, because as a singer with Annie and the Bay Sisters, we did a lot of music, and Duke was one of our heroes.
Well, you took me right to the place I wanted to go next. I wanted to talk about Andy Bay, your brother, and the Bay Sisters, your sister Salome, and you.
Yep.
And the music, listen, your phrasing is so impeccable. When I listen to Besé Me Mucho, which you can go online and you can
Yes.
Google and you can actually watch you perform. And I said, where did they get that? I mean, how did they know to do that, to that song?
Well, the thing about it is, my brother, who is extremely talented, he's the baby of the family. My mother had 9 children.
Okay.
And Andy was the baby. But first of all, we were exposed to the greatest music in the world, because we had older sisters and brothers who listened to Duke Ellington, who listened to Sarah Vaughan, who listened to Ella Fitzgerald, and all those fantastic musicians and singers. And that was my indoctrination to this music. And then as we got older, we began to sing, but we didn't know music technically speaking. You know, we didn't have schooling, you know, where you go to school and you learn to harmonize. It was, as the musicians used to say to us, it's like a primitive sound, something that naturally came out of the 3 of us. Because my brother really couldn't read, and I couldn't read, and neither could Salome. But we just sang as we felt. And as people say, Salome sings through the cracks, in the cracks. Me, I always had the melody, so I never had a problem. And Andy, because he had perfect pitch and knew so much music, he can do anything. You know, you couldn't trick him into singing certain things. He just had music in his cells, in his bones. And we used to learn music with no piano when we traveled on the road. He just gave us our key, and we just went on from there.
Well, you know, I've watched him also. I've Googled him also, and he has the most velvety, rich voice. But he said himself in one of his interviews that he does more than that. He can give you some gravel, pretty much like maybe Louis Armstrong would give you. But you know, you remind me of Little Jimmy Scott.
Oh, but
and
we
his
loved
phrasing.
him. We loved Jimmy Scott.
You know, because he'd take any familiar song.
That's right.
And he would interpret it in such a way that you just never heard that song the same.
That's
and
right.
nobody else could sing it for you.
Well, we loved Jimmy Scott. And we were so impressed with so many different artists, you know, and particularly coming out of the African American community. That we were just enthralled with the music. And I'm so thankful for my family for that.
I'm so
for
thankful
allowing
to your
us to
family.
hear.
And you know what? I'm thankful that you didn't go to school, nor did Debra Hand go to school. Self-taught. Debra, you're self-taught, right? As an artist.
Yes.
And how did you come to be self-taught? How does one decide to teach themselves to be an artist?
You know, I think it ties directly back to the legacy of somebody like Geraldine De Haas, in that you come from such a rich cultural legacy that when people like her help you to become educated, people like her, people like Dr. Burroughs, who was a great influence and who discovered my work and introduced me to the world. But when you are exposed to the richness of your culture, then your self-esteem as an individual in the world and your perception of yourself in terms of what you might in turn contribute is a different thing. It allows you to think that you just start somewhere. If you don't have the money to go to school, as young people may not have money to pursue their music or their dreams or whatever, it's like Dr. Burroughs said, you lay down your buckets, or you put down your buckets where you, cast down your buckets where you are, meaning that you just start. You just start somewhere. So in my case, I started with, and not to go at all into too much of my story, I sort of stumbled into art. But when I stumbled into it, then I took responsibility for trying to do as much as I could through that medium to contribute to the legacy that had already been put in place by people like Dr. Burroughs and of Geraldine De Haas and her family. Because and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and it's concerning the awards. I was brought in uh, to her event by Dale Marie Cobbs years ago. And I was like maybe many in our community of a generation of James Brown and the Delphonics and so forth. I didn't really understand the significance of jazz as our gift to the world, to quote Geraldine. And so as I began to create the awards for the organization and spend more time with the organization and the galas and even talking with Geraldine and also Googling, because I knew I would always hear she was a legend in her family, but I didn't really understand exactly what her contribution was. And when I started to design the awards, then I Googled her family to find out what their philosophy and everything was. And to find this Andy Bey and the Bey sisters, just to find this immense talent that this family has and contributed, and Salome Bey and Andy Bey, who is very active now still.
Yes, he's going to Copenhagen, as a matter of fact, this week.
So when you listen to this music and you just arrested by these voices, and then to know her work and at this point, almost 30 years of just putting on this jazz festival free to our community as a way to engage them in the subject and as a way to show them our rich legacy.
Yes.
When I began to learn what her work had been and began to learn what our cultural gift had been to the world, and the fact that it is recognized as a national treasure thanks to people like Geraldine De Haas, who made sure that it was understood that this gift came from African Americans.
Absolutely.
That's important to know.
That's terribly important.
It's terribly important, not so much that, I don't want to distinguish myself as an individual as better or above anybody, but I certainly want to say to the world that people who had a common background, who had the historical experience that we had in this country, which was not easy, that generation after generation produced a little more and a little more until these are the gifts that we can give to America and to the world, and that is our legacy. It's a part of American history.
Right, and people should know that.
And it should be known.
People should know that.
Who would hide Picasso in France? Who would hide him? Who would not celebrate him? So this is our cultural legacy. She has helped us to have this and to understand it. And I just applaud her. I am with her in life. Anything she needs, however she needs it, I tell her all the time, however I can use any talent I might have developed to help her to further her work. I'm here to do that, and I would encourage every person out there, and particularly the young people, to understand that you don't have to be a jazz advocate to support your legacy going forward. Use your work and use what you do to always make sure you uplift your community, and you help us to shine in the way that we deserve to be seen in America.
Well
that's
said.
Beautiful.
Well said.
Thank
you. Again, the interview with Andy, he said that he was a professional before he was a teenager.
Yes.
Which was, how did you get yourselves out there, so to speak? You're singing in the house.
Yeah.
And
well, even Andy started playing piano when he was 3 years old. We don't know where he got the talent from, but I guess listening to whatever we listened to in the house, and a gift from God. But he started playing at the age of 3. And as he grew up and began to develop and evolve as a young person, he began to not only sing, and he was so impressed with Billy Eckstine's voice at one time, and he had his own television show when he was around 9 or 10 years old. It was a show called Star Time that came out of New York, and he was on that same program with somebody that we all know, Connie Francis.
Wow.
But Connie Francis does different kind of music, so she's easy to sell, so to speak. So we never really wanted to stray from what we were doing in terms of this music. And I remember when we were in London, and we used to go to a house every Sunday because everything shuts down in London, England. And I remember some English person saying to me, well, it's just too bad that I don't know what we were called at that time, Negroes or black or whatever.
Colored.
Or colored. So she said, it's too bad that you're colored, because she said, you people are so talented that you will never make it in your country. That's what she said. So I said, well, no, it's too bad for who? You know,
Right.
when they said it's too bad, you know, because we were always comfortable with who we are and what we are. I mean, we were black. I'm black. My sister's blacker. My brother's blacker than me, and she's black than the whole family. But we were always comfortable with who we are, and that's because of my parents. My father was a seeker of history, and he wanted to know about African people because he never felt that we just fell from the sky as slaves.
Absolutely.
He knew that he said, I don't believe that. So he went around everywhere trying to find out about the history of black people. And if the way I feel, whatever struggles that we have, I can say I got from my father. Because my mother was too busy raising 9 children, stair steps, as they call it. There were 9 of us.
Right.
And Andy was the youngest.
Right.
But we were exposed to such incredible music, and with the way my father felt about life and who we are and what we are, to me, all of that was a gift. I can thank my parents for it. I can thank my old sisters and brothers for it, because they exposed us to this music. And I don't think there's any music greater than what we have and
Absolutely
what we as a
not.
people have given to this world.
Absolutely
And that's why I fight like I don't know what to see it done.
I can see it. Well, you know what rescued me was the disc jockeys when I was growing up. We had Jack L. Cooper and Al Benson, who had shows on the radio, and you got to hear our music. But when I went to DuSable High School, there was Walter Diet.
Yep.
The baddest bandmaster in the world.
Well, that was a blessing.
And I think DuSable High School produced more jazz musicians than any other institution. I'm sure I read that.
Yes.
And Walter Diet was responsible for all of these wonderful musicians. And Tim Black was there before me. And he was in school when Nat King Cole was in school. You know, at DuSable High School. You know, right there in the neighborhood. And so we had an annual program called Hijinks, in which the young people got a chance to perform and to show their talents, and very often they got snatched up by some agent somewhere and taken off. Some of them became famous and others of them just disappeared.
Right.
But the whole point was that we got to strut our stuff. We got to see ourselves. We got to see our talent. No one could tell us anything. And you could read in the newspaper about this high school. We had a terrible reputation, you know, because they stereotype black communities and black schools, even when they're not doing all the things they're being accused of doing. But we had this very fine band, and I was a drum majorette, so I got a chance to march with the marching part of the band for the football games and the other kinds of games, and I got to be around Captain Diet. We loved him like a father.
Yeah, well, that's
and everybody
incredible.
who reports about him, Dorothy Donegan, in this book, The Autobiography of Black Jazz by Dempsey Travis.
Yes.
In this book, he's got a number of artists who are telling their story.
Yes.
And each one of them gives credit to, I don't think this is going to stay up there, each one of them gives credit to Captain Walter Diet
Yes.
for their start, and they all talk about how no nonsense and how disciplined he was, and how he would not give them what they sought at first because he didn't want them to grow big-headed and get excited about their talent.
Yes.
But we had more than the Jackson 5. We had anybody that you could name playing any instrument, singing, dancing. We had it all.
Yes,
And
well, it's historical.
it's historical. And for you to come through during that period, for you to come in just around that time and to have the experience, I feel sorry for young people who don't get to learn and love this music.
It's sad.
They don't have,
really
the
is
music
sad.
that they have is so superficial and shallow.
Yes.
And you have to take time to listen to jazz music. You know, it's not a blip on the screen.
Right. Well, with jazz, it teaches you, and I think this is one of the things that I had in the resolution, the jazz resolution. It teaches you to see things in so many different ways. There's never one way to do something. How High the Moon can be played 100 different ways.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought that learning, you can learn 100 different ways. I went to college at a very old age. I was old when I finally got my music education. And when I found ways to learn how to do something, because it's not easy, and this is what I would like to tell people, young people. You know, I'm a history maker, and I'm going to do something in the schools because I feel I need to do something, because our kids are missing out on so much that something has to be done.
Right.
So
right.
I told them as soon as I finish this festival, I'd like to sign up with some of the schools that I can go in and do something.
Well, I have a connection for you. In fact, I'll give it to you before you leave.
Terrific.
I'm sure that the people at Julian would love to see you. And I know that there are many other schools that would love to have you come, because our young people need inspiration.
Oh, they definitely need inspiration, and they need to know that find your way to learn. And once you start learning is so gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and particularly you need to know about the history of what your African American people have done. And that will even give you more inspiration to want to find out about other things. Because once you know about who you are, then you're open to the world. You know.
You're absolutely right. And for you to say, after 29, almost 30 years of plugging away at this grueling task that you love so much, that you still want to find a way to do more.
Yes.
You know, it shames those of us who are sitting around watching television and talking on the telephone and not really not seeking a way to give something, because we do have things that we can give. We do have things that are sorely needed in our community.
Definitely. Well, you know, I feel that I have been given so much. It's time for me to give back.
Well, I tell you what, you have given us all these opportunities to enjoy the music, and whenever I have come to Jazz Unites, to the Jazz Fest at the South Shore Cultural Center, somehow I felt entitled to be there. Now, it never occurred to me to think about how much hard work there was. Somebody was doing all this work, organizing all this stuff. And at one time, you had actually an art exhibit was going on indoors, and then all of the jazz musicians, and we were all out there in our folding chairs with our grills and our food and our this and that, and we were looking at these major artists that you have to pay huge amounts of money to go to a concert hall to see, and all you had to do was look on the program and discuss with somebody what day you were going to go and who all you were going to see the day you were going to go.
Well, the key for me was to bring the best in the world to our community. And those kids and people need to see what we as a people have given to this world. And that's the only reason why I work, you know, and you know, to me, it's sad that our young people really don't know what we've given to this to the world.
Some
and
of
to
them
this
do
country.
because they're sampling the music.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to hear it every once in a while. You get to
Yes.
hear that they've gone back and they've listened and they've sampled the music.
Mm-hmm.
But even more, our young people need to be exposed to it. Now, I have
Yes.
a younger daughter who grew up with that playing in our household.
Mm-hmm.
And so she knows all the jazz musicians, she knows the music, and she loves it. And when you, as you say, when you were growing up, those were the people you listened to. I
Yes.
sat in the first row at the Regal Theater and looked at Ella Fitzgerald and looked at Sarah Vaughan and looked at Dinah Washington and Duke Ellington and
Yes.
Erskine Hawkins and
Yes.
Earl Father Hines and Andy Kirk and the Clouds of Joy. I looked at those people in the flesh,
Yes.
on the stage, playing
Yes,
that
indeed.
music. That makes a whole different experience for you
Yes,
growing
and
up.
that's true.
So you couldn't settle for just any old kind of music. You developed a taste and an ear for good music.
Well, that's true. You do develop that, but I didn't see too many of those people in person until
I
later
did.
on in life, but I heard them as a very young child. And I saw my sisters dance to the music of Charlie Parker and Jitterbug and all of that, and we just would sit there and look at them and wonder. And it was such a happy time, even though we didn't have much as a family in terms of material things.
We were wealthy and we
but we
didn't
were
know it.
very, very wealthy.
McKee Fitzhugh used to organize dances at all the ballrooms, at the Parkway Ballroom, at the Trianon Ballroom, at the Pershing Ballroom. And they would have something called Battle of the Bands. And you get to
Yes.
see Gene Ammons.
Yes.
You know, you get to see these major artists perform.
That's right.
And you get to dance to the music. You know, it was something
was
that we
wonderful.
took for granted.
Too
that we
much for granted.
Right. And we weren't beating up each other and shooting each other because we were too busy having fun. We were going to the Savoy Ballroom to roller skate.
Yes.
We were going to the other ballrooms to dance. You know, we were going to the Regal Theater to see the stage show.
Yes.
And then across the street to the Met to see the other, you know, movies, the full length. We weren't really interested in the movies as much as we were the live performances.
Yes,
and
well,
you would
that's
see the
wonderful.
marquee. You know, you make a vow when something new went up on the marquee. Everybody would make a vow that they were going to go.
Right.
We were poor, and we had to take empty bottles back.
Right.
To get the
the cash.
deposit.
That's right.
So you'd have money for the show fare. Because your parents would let you go if you didn't bug them every week about the money for the show fare. So we would we'd hustle our money up. And then we'd go and sit and watch the show twice. You know, have to be dragged out of the movie because
Yes.
we'd
Stay there all day.
stay there all day
That's
and all
right.
night. So I know that, you know, with you growing up with that kind of experience, made you love what you loved even
Yes,
more than
with a passion.
With a passion. So who are some of the people that you have had the opportunity to see up close and personal?
Well, it's Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan. Sarah Vaughan used to come out to see us. Carmen McRae.
To your house?
Well, not to our house.
Okay.
Not to the house. but
see you
when we were performing, if they were in town
okay.
and we were in town, they would come out to see us.
Okay.
People like Red Fox and Flip Wilson.
Okay.
And we work with all of these people. Let's see.
Did
Lena
you ever
Horne.
see Count Basie?
Count Basie used to be at the back of a room when I worked. That's where I met my husband at this club called Trudy Heller's Versailles.
Okay.
And Count Basie used to be there, come in and be in the back of the building, talking and drinking. And he would come out, Clark Terry. And my husband at the time was working with a singer by the name of Blossom Dearie. I don't know if you know her. You remember Blossom Dearie?
Yes.
Well, that's how I met my husband. He was working with her. But he's worked with Chet Baker. How he got to this country was through Chet Baker.
Is that right?
And Chet Baker did a movie called Let's Get Lost. Andy and the Bay Sisters is in it, and so is my husband.
I saw that clip.
Well,
I saw that.
Well, we don't know how we got into the movie, but that he took, evidently that film, it was filmed as a matter of
Was
fact.
this in Paris?
It was filmed in Paris
Oh,
by
right.
Roger Vadim.
Okay.
That's Brigitte Bardot's ex-husband, I think.
Okay, okay.
But somehow Chet Baker got a clip of that, and that's in his movie. But when you see a bass player working with him with dark hair at one time, now he has no hair.
Okay.
But and gray. But
Okay.
that was my husband.
Okay.
And I saw the movie when they showed it in Chicago. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Why are we in that movie? We've never worked with Chet Baker."
Right, but you were in good company in the movie.
Yes.
Tell me about your husband.
Well, my husband was a bass player. He literally had been around the world and worked with everybody.
Legendary.
Everybody from Miles Davis down to Peter, Paul, and Mary, Count Basie, Dizzy Gillespie, all those people he have worked with and performed with, and went. Long Talk, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Stitt, you name it, and he worked with them. But he's a good, solid bass player.
Well, it would seem to me that it makes perfect sense for someone who is in the music business to meet, who is extremely gifted, to meet someone else who is extremely
But I promised never to marry a musician. That's the thing about it.
Yeah. Because you knew you'd have such an unstable life.
Well, no, the thing about it is I knew musicians, and I worked with them, and I've seen how the bandits come around, and, I guess they're weak or whatever. But my husband turned out to be one of the nicest persons that I met.
Well, obviously, you've been with him all these years.
Well, it'll be 50 years now it's 48 years, so we got 2 more years until it's 50.
Well, I'll give you credit for the other 2. You probably had some sort of courtship on the beginning, at the beginning.
Well, we did have some but he's a very nice guy, and he's a good cook.
Oh, now that
cook.
Speaks well for him.
But he was born in Indonesia, and his mother knew all about those spices, and she used to cook for the family. His father was a journalist. My father was a window washer.
Okay.
He was a window washer, and he used to hang out of those tall buildings in New York.
Lord.
And at one time, the strap broke, and somebody sent us a picture of him where he didn't fall, but he was hanging for a while. And when I was on the road somewhere in Las Vegas or something, someone sent a picture of my father being taken to the hospital.
He survived it, though.
Yeah, he survived it.
All right.
He survived it.
Well,
No, he's a good man. My father was just incredible. My mother, too.
Well, you loved your family.
Oh,
and
I really
apparently
did.
Your family loved each other, which is always a good thing.
Oh,
especially
absolutely
if
a
you're
good
gonna
thing.
Learn to be famous.
Yeah, well. Oh, well, look, while I'm here, let me talk a little bit about Jazz Fest
Okay.
2010.
10. Who's gonna be
It's
there?
August 7th and 8th.
Right.
On August 7th.
I got the right here.
Okay.
That's a good-looking plugger. August 7th and 8th at the South Shore Cultural Center from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Well,
and
it's
it
actually
features Lou Donaldson. You know what? My husband brought home a record, an LP by Lou Donaldson. I think that's the first jazz music that I knew that he liked. He brought that home, and I think Lou Donaldson was not on there by himself, but I remembered that, and I remembered listening to that music, and it was a little of a stretch for me because I was accustomed to the vocalist and the artist, and I was accustomed to the Count Basie and the Duke Ellington, and Lou Donaldson went somewhere I hadn't been.
Yes.
So I heard it so often. I had to eventually learn to like it. And Corey Wilkes and Otis Clay.
Yes.
Really?
Blues man.
And Diane Reeves. I love Diane Reeves.
Right.
Now, I understand you can't bring any outside food or beverage this
Right.
time, but it's still free.
It's still free.
It's still free, but the Chicago Park District has some regulations now that they don't allow you to bring food.
any food or beverage.
Okay, okay.
And in all the parks
But
now,
you'll
it
be able to
seems.
purchase.
But you'll have vendors.
Yeah, well, we'll have vendors, and
Okay.
we'll have all kind of food. We'll have health food, vegetarian style food.
That's good.
And
'cause I'm
regular
one.
food, because a lot of people, I said, if you're going to cut out people bringing in their own goodies,
Right.
then you make sure that you have all different kind of foods,
Right.
and particularly health food,
Right.
healthy food, and vegetarian style food,
Right.
and stuff like that.
Well, I hope you'll have Brother Tim there.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Tim is deceased, but his daughter still runs his vegetarian fun foods. And they're always at the African Festival for the Arts and
Yes,
other kinds
well,
of things. And they have the avocado tacos and other kinds of
Oh, it
things.
sounds
and people,
delicious.
whole long lines of people would line up to get their food. And it's affordable, and that's important too.
Well,
I hope you've
that's
looked
terribly
at that too.
important. You're right. Well, very affordable and very different kind of food, not just fried chicken
Right.
and ribs.
Right.
You
right.
know, that's all good, and people will
Right.
eat that, but
Right.
we need all different
right,
kinds of
right.
food.
We might make this a kind of a smorgasbord of the culinary arts, so that people can get a chance to have sample different kinds of food. Because for some people who don't get outside of their community, they don't know about all these other ethnic groups and their
Yes.
cuisine.
Right.
And they may not like it, but then they don't get a chance to try it. So if they get a chance to try it, they may develop some other
They
tastes.
might like it.
Then they might want to go to some other countries. How many countries have you visited?
Oh, at least about 12 or 13, but my husband probably visited every country in the world.
Really?
Yes,
You
right.
performed in 12 or 13 countries?
Yeah, well, right, about 12 or 13.
Really?
Yeah, like London and England and France and Spain and Germany and Yugoslavia. And I'm trying to think.
Yugoslavia is kind of a stretch for me.
Yes, well, we
they
were there.
like
I was
jazz
there
in
with Free Street
Yugoslavia.
Theater. You know, have you ever heard of Free Street Theater?
Yes, I have.
I did Free Street Theater here when I first moved. Well, not when I first moved to Chicago, because I was pregnant then, but
Okay.
around 1970, I joined that theater company,
Okay.
in which I went around every neighborhood in the city of Chicago
Okay.
and some suburban areas doing Free Street Theater. And that sort of helped me to put things together, because we worked under the tutelage, in a way. He didn't know he was teaching me anything, of Patrick Henry. I don't know if you ever heard of
I don't know if I
a
know
guy
it.
named Patrick Henry
Okay.
who started Free Street Theater.
Okay.
And he helped me to put things together.
Okay.
In terms of,
organized.
and when I began to do the festival here in Chicago, I learned to organize and program the way he programmed, because
Okay.
you need to look and know about everybody that you're going to have on a program, and know what they're doing, and then that's how you program your thing in the park.
Right.
You know,
right.
just make sure you don't have everything sounding the same.
Right.
And try to at least accommodate the headliners. You know,
Right,
with Diane Reeves, you won't have a singer right before her, or
Right.
something like that,
Right.
and things of that nature. So I learned a lot from Free Street Theater.
Last
I loved
year,
it.
you honored Kalan Phil Karan.
Yes, I think he was
And
wonderful.
he is wonderful, and you know, he organized
Yes.
all of those music sessions on the beach.
Yes.
And just had record crowds, so many that they had to get a place to be indoors. And they started the Afro Arts Theater. And for you, when you received your award this year,
Yes.
I told him about it, but I couldn't tell him about it until it was late. Now, who gave you this award?
This award was from the Jazz Journalists Association, which is an international organization that's really around the world.
Okay.
And they awarded Joe Siegel and myself you know, called the Chicago Heroes or something like that.
Okay.
But the awards that, you know, that really impressed me was when the Council of Negro Women
Oh,
gave
wow.
me the, what's her name? The this
Yeah.
woman who's
Dorothy Height?
not
Dorothy
Dorothy.
Height.
Well, it was the Council of Negro Women, and now I'm having a senior moment.
Don't
But
don't worry about it. It'll come to you. But the Council of Negro Women gave you the award that you value most.
yeah, well, one of the awards
One
that
of
I
the
admire.
awards
Now
that
I
you-
know I got an award from the Washington D.C. the Kennedy
Kennedy
Center,
Center, yes.
in which
Oh.
I got the Mary Lou Williams Award.
Okay.
And I was very pleased with that. And then this the woman who refused to sit in the back of the bus,
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. They gave me the Rosa
Wow.
Parks Humanitarian Award.
All right.
For the, and I said I need to find out a little bit more about this woman. And when I read about her history, I said, well, I can see it, you know, because
Right.
she was determined
Right.
not to sit at the back of the bus,
Right,
you know, and she
right.
was going to do what she wanted to do.
Right.
And I felt very good about that award. And then I got another award from the Friends of the Parks here in Chicago for bringing the gift of jazz to Chicago's
right.
parks.
Okay. All right.
You know, so those three awards mean quite a bit to me. You know.
Debra, did you ever give her the Love You Madly
Yeah,
Award?
she was honored one year with a Love You
Yeah,
Madly
the Love You
Award.
Madly
Yeah,
Award.
because
Well,
you
Right.
should have a Love You Madly
Yeah.
Award.
well, see now
Well,
that
her
was really a
organization
shock.
honored-
That was
honored
shock.
her.
The organization honored me with the Love You Madly
Yes,
Award,
Mary
and
D.
blew my
and-
mind away. It really did,
But
because I didn't expect it.
I want to say this one thing about her, what she has done, and the reason why so many people recognize her just worldwide, but just for the city of Chicago, think about it. Now, as she said, there are so many things to think about when you're just organizing a concert of one performer.
Right.
But she has multiple performers. She has it over 2 or 3. Is it 3 days?
Well, 2 days
Used to
now.
be 3. It's 2 days. Oh, and all of that has to be coordinated. There are travel arrangements, the
Oh,
show
yes.
itself, the sound, the logistics as far as the people coming in and out, the venue, all of these
The
things.
publicity.
All of these
Everything.
things, this woman has done each year to develop this brand of excellence that provides a cultural experience and a moment of cultural bonding that we can just all be so proud of, because when you hear the name Jazz Unites and you hear Jazz Fest, that's a brand that she has built over 30 years that tells you instantly, get your lawn chairs, start calling your family, and let's go, because she's built a brand of excellence. You know you're going to go there for free, not
Yes.
spending one dime, not even, like you said, even aware of who might have done this, her, but just knowing that you can go there, you're going to eat good, you're going to hear beautiful music, you're going to have a wonderful cultural
You're going to
experience.
see everybody.
Yes.
You're going to see everybody.
Everybody's coming.
Right. You're going to all have a good time together, no matter what your ethnicity. You're going to all
Or
have
your age.
right, or your age, and that's right. So
Yes.
even young people, even somebody, because I do understand that, you know, you come along in your generation, and you're acculturated to that, and that's what you know, and that's what you come to love, and you may not love your parents' music, and I understand that as far as genres, but when it comes to jazz or blues, the thing you have to understand, it's not just a trend. This is a gift that has been given by
is, yeah.
people, the people you came from, to the world. And as I said, you have to understand also that there are people like Geraldine in the world who use their talent to make sure that the world
Knows.
that you are shiny and bright in front of the world, and that you can be looked at in context of a great people. So even if you become a rapper, even if you don't like jazz, look at her work. And when you make it, understand that you didn't just make it for yourself, and don't just stand in front of every television camera swinging your bling around and talking about what kind of rims you have when we are in so much trouble in our
Yeah,
community.
in our community.
Somehow use that talent to help other people understand that look at our gifts, look at our contributions, look what we have, and let's continue in whatever area you take your talent in, do some work in that area to make sure that you reach back to help young people know that they are, and especially young African Americans, that they come from a rich cultural legacy, that there's nothing that they can't do, that they don't have to play ball or become rappers if that's not their choice, or drug dealers in order to have something or to make a contribution to the world. Because it's something very wrong when you get wealth and the only thing you can think to do with that wealth is to show somebody how many cars, car after car after car after car, you can line up in your driveway, while the young people of your generation and of your skin color and ethnicity are shooting each other in the streets. If it doesn't occur to you that you have some special power and maybe some special thing that you can leverage to contribute to helping them to understand the richness of who they are, then look to people like this who have done it all of these years for a model of where you might begin to give back. So she's built the brand Jazz Unites. We know it like we know Coca-Cola and Nike and everything else. When that time of year comes, we know we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a beautiful cultural experience. We're going to get to see ourselves shine and others to see, you know, the beauty that we have given to the world.
And all the hip people are there. If you want, listen, jazz lovers are a different breed. I used to have a radio program on WBEE radio. And Bill King was among the DJs. He used to have a show called Legends in Jazz, and he just feature just one artist, and he just play everything by that one artist for a whole hour uninterrupted, and
Ramsey
so forth
Lewis
and so on.
a show as well.
Right. So but you know, jazz was always around when I was growing up and as a young woman and throughout the years. I don't know if you were aware, because you almost have to be local to know about the area called the Valley, which is roughly between, say, 48th and 50th Street on and Champlain and St. Lawrence and Forestville. There was an alley there that somebody, Jimmy Ellis will know this better than me. Jimmy Ellis and Morris Ellis lived next door to me as we were growing up. But they opened up this big garage where people used to repair cars. And they had jazz sessions on Sundays. And you could go to the alley on Sundays and run into anybody you knew who was somebody. And folks would come down, after their wedding, we saw a couple down there with the wedding tuxedo and wedding gown. And you just come and hang out in the alley all day listening to jazz music.
Well, that program is still going on, Jazz in the Alley.
But
Maggie Brown.
not in that alley, though.
Not that alley.
This particular alley was a very special alley between Champaign and Champaign and St. Lawrence on 50th Street. And that particular garage and that setting was where the alley programs began. And I think Jimmy Ellis still has something to do with many of these Jazz in the Alley programs that are still going on. But I mean, that's how much we love the music. We would gather anywhere in an alley. You know, to sit and listen to the music all day. And the alley was transformed because it was clean, and we put our chairs in there, and those who could fit inside that garage fit in there, and those who couldn't just sat outside and listened to the music, you know.
Well, it's a beautiful culture.
But now it's been moved to a much better, you know, a larger venue in terms of being having that experience along the lakefront.
But they don't have the flavor.
No,
they never.
No,
could
I mean
get
for
the flavor.
I mean for the Jazz Fest, as far as being on the lakefront at the South Shore Cultural Center.
Oh
no, I was just sort of segueing from that just to say talk about the venue where this takes
you moved
place.
from the South Shore Cultural Center?
We're still there.
along the lake.
nowhere. But
Yeah.
Okay.
you know, when I saw this facility, even before it was when it was first became under the jurisdiction of the Chicago Park District, and when I saw that facility, I said, gosh, this is a setting is incredible.
Gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Incredible. It's perfect for the music because George Wein, who did the Newport Jazz Festival, used to be our manager, Andy and the Bay Sisters manager. He saw us in Paris and at the Blue Note in Paris, and he said, I want to manage you. He said, I think you're a great group, and I want to bring you back from Paris and come here. I want to manage you. So we were with him for a while, but I saw what he did at Newport, and Newport was gorgeous. And I said, and then when I saw South Shore, I said, this is even more gorgeous. And they were talking about tearing it down. And it was a struggle to keep the facility in the way it is because they were going to tear it down, as you all know.
I had some friends on the committee fighting that one.
Right. Well, a whole bunch of us were fighting that one.
Well, that's
and
a
we
beautiful
really
location.
fought to save that place. And it's a great location for the greatest music in the world.
Right
Absolutely
out on the
How
lake.
did you have the nerve to even start doing this, let alone keep doing it for 29 years?
Well, the thing about it is, I think the people should know that this is great music and it should be heard in a beautiful setting. And because I feel so strong about that and determined, just like I said, Marian Anderson was determined to sing at the Metropolitan Opera.
Okay.
When she got in there, the voice had gone a little bit, but she got there.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
It's just sheer determination and perseverance.
It didn't, it didn't frighten you at all. Did you ever look up one day and say, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into, when your phone was ringing off the hook, when you had to be in two places at the same time, at the opposite ends of the town?
I felt that I had to find some way to do it.
Okay.
When you're so determined to do something, maybe that's the goat in me. I'm a goat.
Okay.
And you know how goats are stubborn, and when they used to call me the pit bull of jazz.
Okay.
So when I grab onto something, I don't let go until it happens.
Okay.
And I was really a pit bull.
Okay.
But
then you have to negotiate all these contracts. You have to get the
That's
venue,
true.
and then you have to get the people to agree.
Well, the thing about when we first did it, when we first did that thing in 1981, and when I got Count Basie and Sarah, who didn't show, but it's another story, and Dorothy Donegan and Dizzy and all of those fabulous people, they knew Andy and the Bay Sisters from the East Coast. They didn't know me as Geraldine De Haas, but they knew me. But I began to look, this is one of the Bay Sisters.
Right, right.
So I had to leverage my relationship as a Bay sister with those people.
Right.
And that's how I got them.
Okay.
Because, they would say, oh, she'll never get those people.
Right.
But they didn't know that I was one of the Bay Sisters of Andy and the Bay Sisters.
Right.
So that's how I got them.
Okay.
And people like that used to come and see us in the clubs, in the nightclubs, and used to talk about how wonderful we were as performers and how different we were as performers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's how I managed to move. And with that, this is how I got going with the South Shore Cultural Center.
Surely you have a committee, a group of people, some people who appoint people for various categories of tasks.
Well, that's true. And I had a lot of different people on this organization, but I tend to be kind of stubborn.
Okay.
And when I don't expect everybody to see my vision.
Okay.
I really don't.
Okay.
And when people feel, well, you can't do this, you don't have the money, you don't have the blah, 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 and they all quit on me, but somehow I managed to get it done. And now that I'm 75 years old, I have to cool it a little bit. Yeah, I'm 75 years old, so I have to slow down a little.
Okay.
Well, consistently, I've seen Mary D. participating with you every year.
That to me is a blessing. Mary D, how she got in my corner, I don't know. She said, well, Geraldine, whatever you do, I'm there. And it has proven to be the truth.
Okay.
And Carol Adams.
Those people, when I see people like that supporting what we do, I said, well, we must be doing something right, because they know it's not, in my case, money, because I've never gotten paid for what I do. It's all volunteer. I don't
Okay.
get a penny for what
Who
I
is
do.
Lolita in your office? I mean, she's the go-to person.
Lolita
And so-
is she does a lot of the paperwork, but she can only do what I tell her to do. So if she gets besides that a little bit, sometimes I said, look, you were here. Well, I mean, she's been there 4 years, and the
Yeah,
thing
she's a
about she
go-to
came
person.
in when she said, well, if you can do this here, half blind cripple, then I know that I can come in and help you in some
Right.
way.
Which is a
Right.
wonderful
And which is a
contribution.
wonderful thing because I don't, not everybody can do that. And she's a retired principal, so she does a lot of the paperwork and stuff. Because I can't see, and she really came to me at the right time because
A
my
blessing.
eyesight went out in '99. 1999, I lost my eyesight and had arthritis and
And
everything else.
it didn't occur to you to stop.
Not really.
I
Isn't
see
that-
it didn't.
You are such
Not
an
really.
example. You are
That's
such
really.
an
over
example.
10 years ago.
Yes, that's right. And it's just become a little more difficult. But even right now, I'm trying to go to school to learn how to use a computer, blind people using computers. And it talks to me, and I still don't know it yet, but I plan to get it.
And you will because you
and
know,
I'm determined to get that and
you
learn
know how
that
to
computer.
persevere.
Yes.
You have come from, you apparently got some really good DNA. And it's come down through ancient ancestors all the way
Yes,
down
yes.
through your parents.
Yes, well,
Right.
my father tells me that. My father, who's a historian, to me, he was a blessing in terms of what he instilled, at least in what I got in me.
That's
Because
why you have to
he's
know you have to know who you come from.
he's been incredible. When they talk about the history of African people, there's nobody like African people.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
and
not.
African Americans and the young people really don't know what they have.
I
They
know.
don't know what they can do.
I
Right.
know.
They just need to be encouraged a little bit.
And inspired.
Yes.
Which is what you can do.
Well, that's
you-
what I
What you're
plan to
doing.
do
Which,
as soon as.
which is what you will be doing more of when you
Yes.
start going into the schools. I want to also, make this announcement again because
Okay.
I want people to certainly know that the South Shore Annual Jazz Festival, Jazz Unites presents it, is going to be August 7th and 8th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and it's featuring Diane Reeves and Lou Donaldson and Corey Wilkes and Otis Clay and others. And you have
Yes.
to come and see what others because
Right,
there will be
the
a
others
program
are-
and everything.
Right, the others are wonderful.
Is it
Right.
going to be on your website?
And
It's on
sti-
my website.
Okay,
It's
It's,
on my
what's
which
the
is-
website?
Yes.
What's the
it's